In this overview tutorial, we're going to give you a quick guide to using the component distortion tool inside of Aspire. We're going to run through 4 different examples to show you different aspects of the tool and some applications of how it might be used. Here we're starting with an eagle, which is from the standard selection of clip art that comes with Aspire. I'm going to select it and come over to the distortion tool here where we have distort selected objects, which is on the modeling tab. When we go into there, we have 3 choices: bounding box, above a single line, and between 2 curves. We're going to come to the second 2 options in the later examples. Here, with the bounding box option selected, I'm just going to hit apply, and we'll see that it's now created this dotted set of lines in a box around my selected component. These act just the same as if this was a vector rectangle that we had here. I even have the choice of a number of the same shortcut keys in order to edit this. So in this case, for instance, I could just click on the nodes here and just drag them over in order to start to make changes to the part. I can also hit Ctrl Z in order to undo those changes. If I want to have even more control over the edits I'm making, we can go ahead and put the mouse in the area between the 2 nodes on the span and use some of the shortcut keys, for instance like B, which will turn that into a Bezier span, or I can hit I in order to insert a point on the span there. Now I could go ahead and grab the node and the control handle here and then shift and select the 2 on this side, and I could actually grab those and move these down now, and you can see that we're actually starting to distort the object based on the changes that we're making to this bounding box. And this is an extremely powerful way for me to edit a component shape. So you can see there we've completely changed the way the wings and the body looks now in order to have it so that they're curling up and out the shoulder and down towards the wingtip. We could even accentuate that curvature by dragging these control handles down. So there's one example where we've taken a very freeform shape and used some of the power of the bounding box distortion tool. Let's go ahead and close that now, and we're going to look at another example in a different session of Aspire. Here you can see I've got some outlines that roughly represent something like a keystone. I'm going to go ahead and import a component, and I'm going to import another one of the standard files from the Aspire disk. This is the double grapes component here. I'm going to select this, hit F9 in order to center it in the job, and now I'm going to use that same tool with the bounding box in order to distort this so it fits within the inner keystone shape. So with that selected, we'll go up to View and Tile Windows Vertical so we can see the 2D and the 3D view. Click on the Distort Selected Objects. Again, with bounding box selected, I'm going to hit Apply, and now what I can do is actually drag and snap this to the nodes of the vector that I've got here. So if we drag that over, we can snap it there, drag this down and snap it there, and then drag this one down and snap it there, and you can see now we've distorted our set of grapes so that it sits within that area that we'd created there using the vectors. So again, a slightly different way to use the tool rather than just doing purely freeform edits is that I can use the bounding box and actually snap it to existing data to fit a certain shape or object. When you're in the distortion mode, as well as the edit envelope option, you can also get the regular transform handles to edit the object. If we click on the option here under edit envelope that says transform object, you can see I get the handles that I would normally have when I was globally editing a component or a vector. And with this I can change things like the shape of the whole object, scaling it in or out however I want to in order to make edits to it in that way. And I can just flip back and forward between those as I may need them to get the shape I'm looking for. If we close the distortion tool and deselect this, I could carry on doing other work, and until I bake or change the state of this object, the software is going to remember it's in that state of distortion. So if I select it again, come back to the distortion tool, you can see I still have the option for the transform object or to edit the envelope using the same set of handles. Only at the point where I bake this object is it going to lose that distortion, and sometimes you may want to do that because you might want to effectively reset the handles in order to distort it in a different way. Let's go into another session of Aspire now and look at an example of how we can create a distortion using a single vector curve. Here we have a piece of egg and dart molding modeled in Aspire. This is actually covered in one of the tutorials examples in the project section where we go ahead and create parts for a mantle. Here though, we're going to take this straight section of egg and dart, I'm going to select it, I'm going to shift and select this curve that I'd like to bend it around in order to create an arch. We'll come over to the distortion tool, we'll click on this, and I'm going to select the second option to distort above a single curve. The software will tell me if my selection is valid for that operation, and if it is, I can go ahead and hit apply, and it'll take a second in order to do that distortion based on the data that I had selected. Now we can see how very quick and easy it was for me to take that straight section and distort that in order to create what's going to now become an arch component. Now we'll go into one more session of Aspire to look at a last application. Here we're going to take this data that's been laid out in Aspire and we're going to distort it between this bottom curve and this top curve. This is a part that's been created for a straight mantle, but it may be that you want to put it onto something like a valance that has this type of shape we've got here. So we'll go ahead and select the component. I'm going to shift and I'm going to always select the bottom curve first out of the two that I want to distort it between, and then shift and select the top curve. We'll come over to the Distort Selected Objects icon, click on it. I'm going to choose between two curves. Again, the software will tell me if my selection is valid, and if it is, we can hit apply, and then it'll take a few seconds to do the calculation, and then it'll show me the new result it's going to give me based on the vectors and that component that I had selected. And there we can see how it's taken the part and it's bent it to fit between those two curves. And that concludes this short guide to using the component distortion tool.